the disinformation is only a small portion of the complex of hybrid attacks on the overall system of democratic values. Unfortunately, we are all witnessing that the democratic world has failed and is still failing to prevent them, and on many occasions has not even managed to defend itself from such attacks. Today, we must understand that hybrid attacks as attacks, they are attacks that lead and will eventually lead in the future to serious conflicts between citizens, between groups, between peoples, and between states. These are real wars, wars that we are already witnessing on multiple fronts around the world, wars in which innocent people are already suffering and will continue to suffer. And of course, those who will suffer the most will be the marginalized and weaker citizens. Disinformation leads to disintegration and destabilization. Let's just look at the region. We have here in Skopje an active dispute between North Macedonia and Bulgaria in Sofia. And we have the Macedonian government's refusal to fulfill its constitutional obligations. So the outcome is blocked European integration of the country. This is not only a bilateral issue, it goes deeply within the regional and geopolitical relations. Look at the developments in Serbia, the protest movement there, and the radicalized behavior of the governments there, the tensions and the shock bombs exploded there at the parliament today. Look at the situation around Dodik in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republika Srpska. It's clear that the Balkans are boiling again, and it's clear that there is a risk of serious regional security problem. The situation was caused, among other things, by the long-standing disinformation and hybrid influences from East against the West, from the regimes against the democracies. And if some time ago we used to say that the creators and distributors of disinformation were hidden in some basements, and that the democracy would win because the Democrats held the mainstreams in the democratic and Western world, today, unfortunately, this is no longer the case. The same ones who spread fake news from basements today are mainstream political players, leaders of states and governments. The same ones have come out of the basements, and today they drive on the highways and they dictate political trends. In other words, it gets worse. What is unclear is whether we will face with conflicts in which two or more sides will clash by war, or whether the conflicts will continue to be caused by hybrid attacks. For example, chaos in the educational school system due to mass false reports of fake bombs, or maybe coordinated explosions of pagers, or maybe chaos in traffic due to intrusions with mobile devices into the Google Maps systems. However, it will get worse. North Macedonia is also not doing well either in defense or in preventing disinformation and hybrid attacks. The civil society and the media here did not accept the offered hand for a joint fight against disinformation offered by the government in the period from 2018 till 2021. They also did not organize themselves to do anything more than fact-checking. But today, the question is whether the fact-checking programs will survive, considering that Meta has already determined termination of cooperation with them, and USAID is almost non-existing, and we know that USAID was one of the strongest supporters of the disinformation fighters. The government of North Macedonia was recognized as a leader in transparency and openness in the region from 2018 to 2023. But today, here in Skopje, we have a government that has no intention of dealing with disinformation. From this government, we should only expect abolition of transparency and accountability, occupation and control of the media space, an attack on freedoms, and setback in the media and democratic literacy of young people. That's the only way a government close to Orban can do. So what can we deal with in such a crisis? First of all, we need to pressure for push and to do pressure for transparency, to do exposure and unmasking. Civil society organizations, activists, journalists They have to push for transparency and accountability on all levels, to investigate, to dig for facts, to criticize, to ask questions loudly until they get an answer, and to be vocal about every unanswered question. Second, we need decisive actions by democratic governments and institutions. Of course, I'm thinking about democratic governments and institutions in the countries and municipalities where they exist in Europe. A good example of this is the decision of the Constitutional Court of Romania to cancel the elections due to external hybrid influences in favor for one of the candidates, of course, the one that was close to Putin. Third, we need to self-organize on alternative online platforms that are not controlled by Elon Musk and those like him. I fully support the idea of the previous speaker for European social platform. A hybrid action is necessary to expose disinformers and to promote facts and truths. The time is coming when the truth has to stream both on the streets and from the online basements. Our channels for action are the public spaces and the safe online platforms that are not under control of political moguls. We need more content. We need 2 democratic podcasts for each anti-democratic one, because the content is king, because without content, there is no win. Fourth, we need strong NATO. It is necessary for NATO to remain committed to countering hybrid attacks and to promote mainstream democratic narratives, same as it has been doing since the beginning of the Russian military aggression against Ukraine. NATO has to continue its excellent communication battle, regardless of the US positions on NATO policies. And fifth, finally, we need a determined Europe. Bojan Maricic was speaking on the first panel about this. I will just take some of the points in order not to repeat with him, but it's evident the withdrawal of the American influence on the Balkans, and it suggests that our last opportunity for EU integration may be nearing. Meanwhile, both Russia and Turkey, they're showing interest and they're becoming more pronounced in our region. Speaking about North Macedonia and the region, unfortunately, the EU's efforts to communicate its values and opportunities have not always been matched by concrete delivery. This inconsistency has led to loss of credibility among the general public. So EU started to lose its credibility here, but the loss has also spread to the political parties, to the groups and to the organizations that are publicly advocating for European integration. However, the support of our citizens for the EU path remains stable. Still, 65% of the Macedonian citizens at the moment are supporting the EU path, and this is a window of opportunity. So Europe must deliver what has already promised and even more. The EU has to define new deliverables in order to renew the public narrative here and the public support both in Macedonia and the region. So there is a momentum of opportunity. The Ukrainian crisis with the Russian aggression and the American shift can be a huge opportunity for Europe to rebuild its unity with an upgraded and determined narrative 80 years after the idea for the European Union was established in practice. The region, as well as North Macedonia, must be given an offer that cannot be refused. It has to be an offer that makes a difference. It can be a major financial support for capital projects. It can be new investment in establishing open economic zone here, or a common single market, or maybe entry of our countries at a certain level into the Schengen system, or maybe involvement of the region in some future European shield. However, the time is now. A decision and actions are needed. EU must deliver this time in order to counter the anti-European moves and actions. EU is playing here on its own field in front of its own audience. It would be truly regrettable and with major consequences not to perform this time, or maybe to surrender the game.